My name is Frank Milnes. Having worked here for 30 odd years and having two uncles killed in the 38 disaster, I got very interested in the project. I had 2 years down the mine and then I had to come out of the mine on doctor's orders with the chest problems, and I then worked on Markham Pit Top, and altogether was 35 years. My Uncle Ted was my mother's youngest brother. There was 11 siblings altogether, but my mother always said Ted was her favourite brother. Their father, my great-grandfather, was a shaft sinker and travelled from one mine to another as his work required. Most of the children had different birthplaces because the family moved around so much. My working life started at Markham Colliery in January 1954. After doing 16 weeks of compulsory training, I then went into the mine and did another further 4 weeks. After 4 weeks, my first regular job was catch knocking, which was at the bottom of number 2, Markham number 2 shaft. When I was told that I could no longer work in the mine with the doctor, I came to Markham and saw the pit manager, and he offered me a job on the pit top. And I was then employed as on what they call the slack road, which was loading the small coal that came out of the pit into railway wagons and lower them down to the bottom of Markham yard in sets of 10. Having been on the slack road for so long, there came an opportunity for me to move onto the dumper truck system, which did away with the aerial system that carried the dirt up to onto the pit tips, and they went onto the dumper scheme system so as it would consolidate the tips better. We're very, very close to the site where I first started the dumper scheme, going up number 2 pit tip, and eventually the aerial system was taken away and we just had the dumper system there.
So were you up and down this area here? Because the shaft was near here.
Yes, the area that I worked was very close to the bottom of the pit tip, so as we was underneath what they call the crusher plant, and that's where we loaded the dump truck and then travelled up the haul road to the top of the tip. Well, having worked so long on the dumper system, the coal from number 2 pit was then transferred by conveyor belt down the yard to the bottom end, and that did away with the dumper system at number 2 end. I then went on general duties and was later transferred then to number 1 and 4 end of the pit site to feed the boilers that made steam for the engines and compressors and electrical stuff that worked off steam with slurry, so as the men could fire the boilers up to make the steam.
What was the steam used for?
The steam was to run air compressors, generators to generate electricity, and also was a spare fan that ventilated the shafts on number 1 and number 4, which was driven by steam. When Uncle Ted died, he left 4 children. The first two were twins, aged 4, a girl aged 2 and a very young baby girl. And to this date, the eldest twin now is 84, she's still alive, and her sister is 2 years younger and she's still alive. But unfortunately, the twin to the eldest girl went into the Grenadier Guards and was shot accidentally in the barracks and killed. And he is buried with his father at Scarcliffe Church. Well, while working on the pit top, particularly on the Slack Road, my mate Harry Wilco was quite a comic, and we used to play tricks on different people, and people used to play different tricks on us. And one day I got some conduit piping and made H television aerial out of it. It was when the time that televisions were sort of coming in, and I went and fixed this television aerial that I'd made on the plate layer's cabin chimney stove, which was just down from where we worked. A short while after, the plate layer gaffer came to us and said, "You're right ones, I've had to go and see the engine right." Whatever for? He wanted to know why we'd got a television and an aerial in the cabin. But unknown to the engineer, there was no electric power into this cabin, so it was obviously they couldn't have a television. Having worked so long on feeding the boilers down at the bottom end of the pit yard, I was then transferred back across to the other side of the big washery to take dirt back up onto number 4 and number 1 pit tips. For a good number of years, when we was having a snap in the snap cabin, which was at a regular time, a chappie that patrolled the pit tips used to take the surface superintendent's dog with him, which was a little fat Jack Russell, and the purpose was to get the weight down. And we used to call the dog Fred, which was the surface superintendent's name. When the surface superintendent was at home waiting for his dinner, his wife would shout, "Come on then, Fred, your dinner's ready," and the dog would turn up first. I was the first person to perform on the Markham pit top with the dumper scheme at number 2, and then later, when the coal was transferred to the bottom end of the yard to number 1 and 4, they set another dumper scheme up there, which later on, a few years after, I was transferred onto that system as well. We was working on the dirt disposal on the morning that the 73 disaster happened in number 3 shaft, and when we heard about it, we was told that we wouldn't be needed our assistance, but be ready in case we was. And they had to transfer the men out of number 3 shaft, pit bottom, underground to number 1 and 4 pit bottom shafts to get them out of the pit. The injured men were loaded into ambulances and ferried to Chesterfield Royal Hospital. Unfortunately, the people that was killed was laid on the bagging lorries that they used to deliver the coal, because they was flat lorries, and taken then to where they was going to lay them out in the mortuary.